Big news for Mike Woodson in Indiana basketball. Jalen Haralson, the #1 player in the state of Indiana, has set an official visit.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. A reminder, we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you so much for being here. Be sure you subscribe wherever you're tuning in from, listening, watching, whatever platform it is. Thank you so much for being here and being an everydayer, making this truly your first listen each and every day. There are so many things to talk about on the show today, but the big one here on Locked On Hoosiers is a guy that we've talked a lot about. It's a guy that everybody's talking about in the class of 2025 in high school basketball. Big news here. Jalen Haralson has officially set his official visit to Bloomington to see Indiana. We're talking about that today, what that means, why that's important, and why I think official visits are more important than they've ever been before. Plus, we have a guy that took an unofficial visit yesterday in the 2026 class, a guy that Indiana is very much in on and excited about. Plus, we'll have a little fun at the end of the show today with summer workouts fully in swing for Indiana basketball. Who's going to emerge from the pack? Who's going to put in the work to become the best that they can be? We're talking about all of that and more here on Locked On Hoosiers. We got the news yesterday that Jalen Haralson has officially set a time and a day to come and visit Indiana. The 6'6" guard in the 2025 class from right here in the state of Indiana. Many people think he's the best player in the state. Many people think he's the best player in the country. He will be here in Bloomington visiting Indiana on August 31st. He has also set 2 more visits. They'll be back to back to back. Right? He'll visit Indiana on August 31st. He'll visit Notre Dame on September 7th. And he'll visit Michigan State on September 14th. All right, he's currently ranked in the top 10, top 15, depending on where you look. I think he's one of the best players in the country. And he's ranked as the #1 player in the state of Indiana. And this is somebody that I've continued to say on this program, this needs to be Indiana's top target. This has to be our go-to guy. If we want to be competitive moving forward, these are the types of guys you have to get, right? We had a good episode yesterday about Braylon Mullins and Trent Sisley. If you missed it, go check it out here on Locked On Hoosiers. But we also have to go after the Jalen Haralsons of the world. Are you going to get all 3? I don't know. Maybe or maybe not. But the good thing is here is Mike Woodson and his staff are not afraid to go after them. They have put the pedal to the metal and really dug deep in high school recruiting. And they've continued to dig deep in the state of Indiana, right? We had a good conversation about this on the show yesterday where it's more crucial than ever before to get in-state kids to stay in-state because they have so many options nowadays. They have so many programs, so much money, so many things they can go do. And the goal, of course, is to keep them here in the Hoosier state. So with that, this is really, really big news. He'll be here on August 31st, which, if that date kind of sounds familiar, that is the season opener for Indiana football, right? New head coach Curt Cignetti. You're going to have a bunch of fans in there. Should be a packed, good weekend to be in Bloomington, right? Should be busy, should be a lot of fun, should be a lot of things happening. That should be a good weekend for Jalen Haralson. It is interesting that he's taking these visits in football season and not during the basketball season. So he's going to see some of the best atmospheres in college football. He's going to Notre Dame and Michigan State to visit up there during football season as well. And so I said something in my open that it really kind of sparked something for me. I was talking with a buddy of mine the other day and a guy that's been doing long-time sports radio, and he was on this conversation and on this topic about how he used to believe that official visits didn't matter. He said, why are people excited about official visits? Why do people get hyped up about official visits? That's not like they're actually coming, right? They haven't actually committed or signed or done anything. They're just showing up and looking around. That's how he used to think. But then he said nowadays in 2024, he believes that it's more important than ever before to get them on campus. And I could not agree more. I could not agree more, especially here in a place like Indiana, in a place like Bloomington, where it is so special. It's so unique. And really, it's so historic, right? We are a special place, and it's one of those places where when you get kids on campus, they just see it. They feel it. They can understand the magnitude of what this place brings, which is why I think it is crucial that you get a guy like Jalen Haralson on campus, right? You had other guys playing in your camps and playing inside of Assembly Hall. That's fantastic. But now you have a guy like Jalen Haralson, who is the #1 player in the state, who's coming to take an official visit. And in this little group of visits, you're the first one. I always say you want to be the first or you want to be the last, right? That's what I've always said about official visits, because if you're the first one, you get to set that standard, right? You get to be the one that sets the standard for the rest of the visits, because then whether he consciously thinks about it or not just Haralson, I'm talking about anybody, they will always be comparing other visits to you. They will always be comparing the facilities and the coaches and the experiences, heck, even the food. They'll be comparing that to you. Or if you're the last official visit, okay, you are the last one. You get the last say. You get the last word. You get to leave him with what he will think about on the ride home. That is really important too. And so, will he take more official visits? Probably, but he has these 3 scheduled: Indiana on August 31st, Notre Dame on September 7th, and Michigan State on September 14th. And in that group, we are the first one. Set the standard right then and there. Tell him what he will be, what we can be when he steps foot in Bloomington, when he can be the superstar of 2025. I mean, look at what the class could be. Think about if the Hoosiers start landing some of these big-time players. I mean, 2025 could be unbelievable. It could be one of the best recruiting classes we've ever seen in the history of Indiana basketball. Think about that. Think about that. And that's what Jalen Haralson can bring to you, okay? He can make threes. He can score off the dribble drive. He creates his own shot. He can defend. The guy's 6'6". He's a superstar, all right? 6'6", 210 pounds. And everybody in the country is after this guy. He has named his final 9 schools, and I'll tell you those before we move on. Missouri, Michigan State, Gonzaga, Notre Dame, Auburn, Duke, Kansas, Indiana, and Purdue. All right. So the biggest names in college basketball are in on this guy. He's cut them down. That's no in particular order either. That's just the list that we know of as of right now. But good news is he's taking a visit to Bloomington August 31st, 6'6", 2025, #1 player in the state. Jalen Haralson will be in Bloomington on August 31st for an official visit. Well, coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, a guy that took an unofficial visit yesterday in the class of 2026, Anthony Thompson, somebody that was non-existent in the eyes of recruiting and all of a sudden has shot up the rankings. We'll talk about that coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers again. Appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day, part of your rotation, wherever you're tuned in, audio, video, whatever platform you're on. Thank you so much for being here, becoming an everydayer and a member of this wonderful community. Be sure you subscribe wherever you are. All right, it helps me out tremendously, helps me out a ton. So be sure you like it, comment, Subscribe no matter where you are. Do that for me right now real quick, and I really do appreciate you doing that. We talked about 2025, right, with Jalen Haralson setting an official visit, but there was a guy on campus yesterday, right, who is in the 2026 class that Indiana has been on for a long time. And I think that's going to help with this particular player because he was somebody that not a whole lot of people knew about. He was unranked. He was a guy that nobody, and I say this the nicest way possible, he was a guy that nobody knew or cared about. And then all of a sudden, it took one big time year of high school basketball, and the guy shot up to the number 11 player in the country. Anthony Thompson was on campus this week. He took an unofficial visit to Indiana. He is the number 11 prospect in the country, and the number 1 player from Ohio. Originally from Hudson, Ohio. He's the number 1 player from there. He is ranked in the top 10, top 15 in the country, depending on where you look. Okay, and this is for 2026. So this is looking a little bit ahead, but we know how recruiting is. You have to be in on these guys early and often if you want to have a chance. When the 25 cycle rolls out and that's completely done and in the books, you've got to already be ahead of the chains, if you will, in 26. You can't go all in on 25 and then once that's done, then start on 26. No, you'll be left in the dust. You'll be laughed at when you start reaching out to some of these kids, okay? He's 6'7", 185 pounds, playing at the small forward position. And his college list as of early just wasn't impressive because, again, this guy wasn't anywhere. He wasn't on anybody's radar, but the Hoosiers knew who he was, and they were on him, and they've been on him, and he took an unofficial visit here this week. He plays for the Indiana Elite team, the AAU team here in the state. And he is going to play this next season at Western Reserve. And so a guy from Ohio, he's played most of his time there in Ohio. He had a quick quote about his time at Indiana on an unofficial visit. He says, it was a great visit. So what he said it was great, right? He said he was able to spend time with Mike Woodson and other members of the Indiana coaching staff. He's a lefty, so that's interesting. He really, again, just grew and shot up the charts this past spring. This is from Trevor Andershock on 247 Sports. He says, quote, Indiana elite forward Anthony Thompson goes from unranked to the number 11 2026 prospect in the nation. That jump is like what Indianapolis native Xavier Booker made, but Booker made it as a rising senior instead of a rising junior. He goes on to say the smooth lefty has a world of potential, but Thompson also produced well for Indiana elite this spring. He will likely keep growing and refine his game in future years. And reminder that this is not the first time that Anthony Thompson has been to Indiana. He actually visited back during the basketball season too. So he's been here a few times. He's somebody that Indiana really, really wants. And just think, from his sophomore going into junior, he went from unranked to the number 11 player in the country. What's he going to do as a junior going into a senior year? What's he going to do as a senior going into a freshman in college? I mean, we're talking about a guy that legitimately could be the number 1 player in the class. We're talking about somebody who could be a potential game changer, program changing type of player who still has 2 years of high school basketball left. We seem to forget that. And I say we because I'm in this group too. When you talk about these 2026 kids, it's like, hold up. We're still in 24. They still have to play their 24-25 season and their 25-26 seasons in a high school basketball before they're ever going to be here. That just kind of blows my mind a little bit and reminds you that we're talking about 15 and 16-year-old kids, and they're already this good. Imagine what happens if they happen to hit another growth spurt, or they put on some weight, or they just mature a little bit and they just get better. That's the natural progression of basketball players at this age. And so for Indiana to already be getting him on campus a few times, him having a relationship with Mike Woodson, he's got photos with Mike Woodson, talking with the staff. I hope that he's able to talk with the team a little bit too. We know how much the team has been involved in the 25 class of recruiting. I'm sure Haralson will hang out with those guys when he's here in August. But if you can have some of these guys, and I'm looking at a guy like McKenzie and Baco. I'm looking at, our guards like Rice and Carlisle, who can talk to a guy like Thompson that they have the potential to all be here at the same time. They have the potential to play together. Those are the ones that have to talk with him. Sure, I mean, you could have Trey Galloway talk to him being, a legend here in Indiana, but they're never going to see the floor together at the same time. So it may not have the same effect, but I would want to see, and I hope that this is the case, and I'm sure it will be, to see the Indiana squad and the Indiana team, the players reaching out to an Anthony Thompson and saying, hey, man, this is a place you want to be. I'm telling you, it's awesome here. Here's why, X, Y, and Z. Okay, that's what I want to see. And I think that's going to be a part of this too. But Anthony Thompson's a beast, man. He's an absolute beast. Again, 6'7", 185 pounds, playing at the small forward spot. It's only going to get bigger and stronger. He has it all. I mean, he can shoot, he can score, he can defend at 6'7", and he plays that forward position, which we know that Mike Woodson seems to like. He's made a living in this position and in that spot. Look at what we have coming up this year. You have Malik Renew and you have Mackenzie Mbako. They're playing the 3 and the 4. Of course, with Umar Ballo playing at the 5. And then you bring in guys like Luke Goody, who are going to come in and play at the forward spot as well, and Langdon Hatton, who are going to come in and play that spot. So we know that Mike Woodson feeds off of the forward position because of how versatile it is. And with somebody like a Jalen Haralson in 25 or somebody like Anthony Thompson in 26, those are the ones that can thrive in this system. And that has to be the selling point. You can take these guys and legitimately put them in the NBA and be effective small and power forwards. You can do that. And one thing that I like about Mike Woodson's system is if they get the opportunity, somebody who plays a small forward spot would have the chance to play like a shooting guard. Like, if you get the rebound, go, take it. You don't have to find a guard to outlet to. And I hope that's something we continue to see this year too, but that has to be attractive to Anthony Thompson. And what also has to be attractive is Indiana's been on him for a while. Now that he's getting better, now that he's a top 15 player in the class, you don't think every school in the country is going to start calling on this guy? Every school like Kansas and Gonzaga and Duke and all these big name programs are going to come after him? Yeah, of course they are. But they're going to come in late. They're going to come in and flex their, we're Duke muscles and try to pull him, right? Try to get him to go there without putting in all of the work like teams like Indiana have done. And you hope, the hope here is that when it all comes down, right, when the dust settles, when everything's ready to go and Anthony Thompson makes his decision, and look, we're a long way away from this, okay? But when he does make that decision, you hope that he remembers who was on him. You hope that he remembers who wanted him early, who was on him, who brought him to campus numerous times and told him how great he is, even when others didn't think he was great. You hope that he remembers that. And I think that Indiana will be in the mix until the very end. There's a long way to go. And this is high school recruiting. Anything can happen. But I'm excited about what the Anthony Thompson could do at Indiana. And I'm excited to see how he grows some more, man. He's still got 2 more years of high school basketball. Let's see what this kid can do. He's going to play high school ball, going to continue playing the best AAU ball in the country. He has no choice but to get better. It's just inevitable that he's going to get better at basketball, which means he can only grow in the rankings. Anthony Thompson, top 15 player in the class of 2026, was on campus this week for an unofficial visit, said he had a great time, been talking with the coaches, and has that relationship with Mike Woodson. I'm excited to track this with you, track this recruiting for the next handful of years until he finally decides, sure, I want to be an Indiana Hoosier. Final segment coming up on Locked On Hoosiers. We will talk about the summer workouts going on for Indiana basketball. And I'm asking you the question, who will emerge? Who's going to step up and become even better than they were last year through summer workouts this year? And there's something that sparked this conversation, so it's not out of the blue. We'll talk about that coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Last segment of the show. Appreciate you being here again, making this your first listen each and every day. Reminder, we're free and available no matter where you are. Listening on an audio platform, watching us on YouTube, we're free every day. We post every day. We're in the off season right now, so it's about 3 days a week. But reminder that it's always free for you to watch and listen, okay? Indiana basketball, we know that they're in the middle of summer workouts. They're a couple of weeks in, and I saw this the other day, and I failed to comment on it until just now, so apologies for that. But Indiana posted a Indiana basketball, that is. They posted like a summer workout hype video. Okay, right? I'm sure you saw this. They posted, it was a about a minute and a half, I guess, video clipped together of all the basketball team working out, right? They're out there in the beach, in the sand, throwing medicine balls against the wall, out there carrying massive heavy weights and slamming ropes. I mean, and I saw a combination of everybody that was doing it. And they did that to kind of get you, the fans, hyped up a little bit because, sure, it's the middle of the summer, man. It's the middle of late June. There's not a whole lot with the team going on right now other than summer workouts. But they posted that to get you excited, to get us ready for the 24-25 season. And it made me think of a question that I wanted to pose to you. And so be sure you comment down below on YouTube if you're there, and you can tweet at us as well at Locked On Hoosiers. Who's going to emerge? And this is a what-if question. It is. Who's going to emerge this summer for Indiana? Who's going to be the guy that steps in to summer workouts and just has dedicated and made the proclamation, I'm getting better. I'm going to make a step and make a step in the right direction. I'm going to progress my game, my body, and my mind to make us better. Remember who did that last year? Remember who claimed he did that last year and we could see it with our own two eyes? It was Malik Reneau. Malik Reneau did that in the offseason last year, and look how good he was this past season. Now, he had trouble with fouls, yes, and I hope that he can fix that, but he dedicated his life to get better for Indiana basketball. And he has come back, and I hope that he continues to do that. I hope he does it again. And knowing him and how much he truly cares about the game and about winning, you could see the emotions he had after the Big Ten tournament where Indiana got eliminated and their season came to an end. He was emotional, very, very emotional because of the work he had put in and the grind that last season was for this team. Who's going to do that in this offseason, right? You've got a bunch of newcomers through the transfer portal. They have something to prove. You have rookies coming in like Bryson Tucker who have everything to prove and have to find their spot on this roster. And you also have senior leaders like Trey Galloway who need to be there when times get tough. And the guys that are going to be counted on day in and day out, like a Malik Reneau and a Mackenzie Mbako. Can Mbako dedicate himself to become a better shooter, to become an even better shooter, a better defender, right? A guy that can handle the basketball, that can orchestrate the offense if he's asked to do that. Can Malik Reneau work on fouls and defending without having to whack somebody to do it and then having to spend the last 5 minutes of the game watching from the sidelines on the bench because he's fouled out? Okay. Can you get somebody like a Cannon Carlisle or a Miles Rice who have everything to prove, and the pressure will be on them as the guards to step in and elevate this team because that was a missing piece a year ago? Are they ready to take a step from what they played in the Pac-12 to what they're going to see in the Big Ten? Those are the things that I'm looking for. I look for Oumar Ballo to step in and not just fill the shoes of Khalil Ware, but take them to the next level, which is going to be hard. Khalil Ware was great. He was phenomenal. He was all defensive team in the Big Ten. He was an all Big Ten type of player on offense. He was a stud. Is Oumar Ballo dedicated right now in the summer to become that and then become something more? I've told you this and I believe it. This is where the championships are won. This is where you win or lose games and championships is in the summer. This is where you get your body right, your mind right. This is where you're working together. The cohesion all comes together here. It all starts right now in the summer. That video did wonders on me. It got me excited. It got me hyped up. I hope you can see that. And I hope that you feel the same way, because when November rolls around, that's too late. It's too late to get in the gym and say, man, I'm going to put on some weight this year. No, you missed your chance. You missed your opportunity. Can you make adjustments on the floor and in the game plan throughout the year? Sure. Can you still work out throughout the year? Absolutely. But it's what you do right now. It's what this team does right now. And I ask you the question, who is that guy? Who are we going to hear about on the broadcast and who are we going to hear about from Mike Woodson on that dog, that leader who just stepped up and decided, I'm taking that next step. I'm going to be the man on this team. And what's exciting is I think it's a combination. I think it could be anybody. My predictions, I don't know, because I think it could be a lot of them. And I hope that it's not just one, because Malik Reneau was the only guy we heard that about last year. I mean, maybe Khalil Ware at times, and Baku got better as the year went on. But I'm talking about who's doing it in the middle of the summer in the dog heat out on the beach throwing a medicine ball against the wall. Who's doing the extra rep? I hope it's more than one. Because, and I'll leave you with this, if it's more than one, if you get 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that have done that and have bought in and are ready to go and ready to be their best, this Indiana basketball team has a chance to go all the way. I truly believe that. But it's going to take that work, that dedication to be the best that you can be. Because there's a lot of talent on this roster. There was a lot of talent on last year's roster, but it didn't work out. That was not a good team last year. This can be a good team. And so I hope they see that, and I hope that they dedicate themselves to become that, because if they do, the sky is the absolute limit for this Indiana team in 2024 and 2025. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for listening, watching, whatever platform you're on. Always a reminder, we're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Like us on that platform. Subscribe to us here on YouTube if you have not already. Here's a live update on that before we get you out of here. 2,626. Yes, 2626. That's where we stand right now. Let's get to 2,700. I think we can do it in the next few days. I think we can. So let's push towards 2,700 subscribers. Thank you so much again for being here. Another episode coming out tomorrow here on Locked On Hoosiers. Until then, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.